what did I see standing in front of me was this magnificent being in an orange robe with this black hair. And it was the appearance, but it was more the energy that was coming from him. We are all here on a journey. All of us are here on a journey. My particular journey started out so much different than I expected it to, in terms of, I was brought up Christian. I did go to church, but our family didn't think about God, during the week. We only thought about it when we went to church. And so it was when I was in my 20s that my husband and I decided that we were going to take a trip around the world. So we quit our jobs and we had saved some money, and we decided to buy our backpacks, get our boots, and we got our visas, and we started off across the United States. We went down into South America. We spent a year there in Central and South America. We spent another year in Europe and Africa, another year in India and Asia, and then the Orient, and then we came home at about 3.5 years later. So our idea behind this trip was to experience the world around us and learn more about cultures of the world, beliefs that they have, the experience of the geography, the historic ruins, things like that. So one of the things that we knew we had to do for this was to go on, visit these celebrations, spiritual celebrations that were being held all over the world. Because we knew if we went to these spiritual celebrations, we would learn more about the culture of the world. So that's what we did. And we did all through South America, Africa, Asia, and we got to Asia, of course. And so now we're taking a boat from Mombasa in Kenya to go to India. And somebody gave me the book, The Autobiography of a Yogi. So many people have heard about Swami through that book. But for me, it opened up a world, because I thought, I never knew these things were possible. Why didn't anybody tell me? There were miracles that were happening, and this devotion, and the word guru. I'd never heard of the word guru before. I've certainly never heard of the word Atma. And so it was like opening up a new world for me. So we got to India, and we're down in South India, and there was a couple from Austria who had told us, they said they had come from Puttaparthi, and they said, you've got to go. There's going to be a festival there, and there's a guru, and he's going to do miracles. And I thought, I'm a real skeptic. I didn't want to get involved. I thought, India's a land of gurus. How do I know a real one when I see one? So I really just wanted to, again, go to a festival and learn more about the people. And especially now, my interest was heightened because, I can see a miracle. Is this real? Is there such a thing as a miracle? So we got there to India. We decided to detour our trip. But before that, they told us about it. And then my whole passport was stolen from my money belt, because my money belt had rupees in it that were getting wet. It had lost its waterproofing over the years of traveling. And so I'd taken my money belt off in the train in South India, and I put it in my bag. And then the conductor came by after we were pushed and shoved onto the train, and he was looking for my money belt. I was looking for my money belt to get my ticket out. It was gone. And so I was devastated. And we had to get off the train immediately. We took another train, went back to Tirunelveli, where this happened. And there, we didn't find the money belt. But on the trip back to Madras to go to the embassy and get new passports, there was a carload of people that were singing Hare Shiva Shankara 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 Hare Bum Hare Bum 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 Bolo, and they all were singing with such enthusiasm. Of course, we asked, where are you going? What are you singing? What is this all about? They said they were going to Puttaparthi for Shivaratri. And we thought, this is the second time Swami was pulling us to come to Puttaparthi. Little did we know at the time. And so we went back to Madras, and then we changed our trip so we could go to Puttaparthi. We arrived in Puttaparthi. Well, the roads were not good. Of course, there was no administration building on the hill. There was no Western canteen. We slept in our tent at the top of the hill where the administration building is today. But when we arrived, Swami had just arrived from Bangalore, and he was standing at the end of the mandir, where it was still white. They had not painted it yet. And at the end of he was standing there, and nobody had told me. Well, first of all, I'd never seen a picture of Sai Baba. I was picturing an old man, a typical Indian guru. And my impression was an old man with a goatee, kind of cane, walking a little bit hunched over. That was my impression of a typical guru. But what did I see standing in front of me was this magnificent being in an orange robe with this black hair. And it was the appearance, but it was more the energy that was coming from him. And the only word I can say to describe this was beauty. It was sheer beauty. I had never, ever seen anything so beautiful. And I know that my heart quivered. I know something was happening because I was a confirmed atheist at that time. I really had given up on religion. It was not something that was it was just too restricted or something. I don't know what it was exactly. So this was beauty itself. And immediately my interest was raised. And we sat there. There were only about 20 of us. And the men had to, they ushered me to the women's side. They said, I can't sit with my husband and I have to cover my shoulders. And I thought, what? I have to do all these things. And so we are sitting there and Swami is standing there going like this. And again, I can't take my eyes off of him. And something's happening inside of me. And I couldn't quite understand it because it was such a new experience at the moment. And I should say also that it was night at that point, so the floodlights were on him. So the sands around us were like brighter, and he was just beauty, just beauty. So we got used to being Darshan a little bit, and I started asking questions because I'd never read any literature about Sai Baba. So as I'm reading, I'm hearing people say, well, what does he teach? What does he teach? Because we were concerned that we were walking into a cult. We didn't have, any idea what we had happened upon. So what did I hear? I heard that there's only one religion. It's the religion of love. Already, that was amazing for me to hear that because all these different religions were having factions. Like even in the Christian religion, the Protestants were against the Catholics, there was some disagreements there. So, but there's only one religion, the religion of love. And that really went to my heart. He said, there's only one caste, the caste of humanity. We had just come from meeting people all over the world, and we met seekers of truth. And these seekers of truth were people leading really good lives. It didn't matter what religion they belonged to. It mattered what they were doing with their lives. And so then after that, he said, there's only one, there's one religion, the religion of love. There's one caste of humanity. There's only one language, the language of the heart. And so again, this is amazing that there's one religion, it's love, and love is in the heart. The message came to me. And then the last one was there's only one God and he's omnipresent. How can there be so many religions believing that there's a different God for each religion? So these 4 lines transform me immediately. Because again, I thought to myself, this is what I've always believed, but I never heard anybody say it. Never heard anybody say it. And here he was saying this, and this is what it was. On top of that, I asked people, where did you come from? East Africa, from Asia, from USA. It turns out we were some of the first people from the USA that came there, actually. This was 1975. And so it was amazing to be a part of this experience. And we were trying to still understand what we had walked into. And then I thought one day, well, I've seen him, but I haven't heard him speak yet. I haven't heard him do it. And then I heard over the loudspeaker somebody singing. And I thought, who's singing? Who is that? That's such a beautiful voice. They said it was Sai Baba. And so now the singing also was attracting me because it was so full of love. When you do anything that is full of love, you can feel it. You can feel it coming to you, and it makes you feel good, right? So the experience of being at Puttaparthi was amazing. We were there for Shivaratri. We didn't know anything of what it stood for or what it was, but one night we were ushered into the Punachandra Hall. We were given front seats as VIPs because we were Westerners. There was no other reason. And in the hall, I guess before that, actually, I realized I wanted to write a letter to Swami. And I asked somebody, how do I address it? Dear God? Dear Sai Baba, dear mother, dear father, he was everything. So I ended up writing a letter, Dear Mother, because what I saw during Shivaratri, I just studied him intensely, and I saw him changing. His features were changing. His face was becoming fuller. He had some pinkish cheeks. It was almost like he was becoming a mother ready to give birth to a baby. And I was, so I thought, okay, I'll write Dear Mother. So I did that. In the letter that I wrote to him, I said to him, Swami, could you please help me remember you every day for the rest of my life? That's what I knew enough to say that. And when he took the letter from me at Darshan, out in the grounds in front of the Mandir one day. It was like the first time he had looked at me directly in the eyes. And I want to read just something that a young adult wrote. He happens to be my son, and he kept a journal. And I love the way he said this. He said, "Today, Swami looked into my eyes for the first time on this trip. Although it was from a distance, his gaze penetrated my heart. As our eyes met, my mind became silent, and time stood still. It is something indescribable to look into the eyes of an avatar. His eyes are like beads of fire that only emanate love. They are as hard as stone, yet soft as petals. Those split seconds that our eyes met, I was looking into existence itself. It was pure bliss." And that's what I felt when he took my letter. And so that was like, I felt so happy. I felt so happy that he had taken my letter. In subsequent trips, for all the years I've known him, he always took my letters. And it was interesting. I'm going to get back to Shivaratri, but it was interesting that there was, when he took the letters, there was an experience where a devotee, Al Drucker, talks about how Swami looks at letters. So he was in the room with Sai Baba when he was, opening letters. There were piles of stack of letters. Here, 2 more stacks beside him. And Swami would take the letters, put the letter between his hand like this, and then put it on the stack. That's all. But then there was one letter that he took out, and he read it to Al Drucker. He didn't read it. Al Drucker looked at the letter. Swami handed it to him. But Al Drucker, but Swami dictated what was in the letter that Al Drucker was looking at. So Swami says he writes all the letters. That's why he only has to do this, and he knows what's in your letter. So there was one time after many years of being at Puttaparthi that there was a time when I realized I thought I had this idea that he was going to take my letter that day. I was sitting front row, and he came in his entranceway. And I'll never forget this. It was like he came towards our row, and I didn't have a letter prepared, so I scribbled something quickly to what I wanted to say. And he came right to us. He looked into me in my eyes with so much compassion, so much love and so much compassion, and with this little smile on his face and just these eyes of love. And he took the letter that I knew he was going to take. I knew he wrote it. It was like, and that was the last letter he took, because at that point I had to be wise enough at this point in my journey and this whole trip. I had to be wise enough to understand that if I'm just going to sit there and keep saying, "Swami, please take my letter, please take my letter," I'm missing what he's bringing. I'm missing the darshan he's giving. The darshan he's giving is pouring his love on us. There was a baker at the village once who asked Swami, "Swami, what happens when you give darshan? What happens?" And so Swami said to him, "Come back the next morning and I'll show you." So he came back the next morning, and Swami gave him the vision that when he was giving darshan to the audience and the devotees, Swamis would come out of Swamis, would come out of Swamis, would come out of Swamis into everybody sitting in the auditorium. And so that's why they always say, when you receive Swami's darshan, don't talk, be quiet afterwards, and keep that energy that he's put inside of you. And so it was a beautiful way to understand what was happening. But that moment he took the letter, I knew that was the last one he was going to take. And I knew that I had to focus on receiving his love and keeping it inside and letting it uplift me. That was what I knew I had to do. So back to Shivaratri. So we're sitting in the Punachandra Hall, and I was told that he was going to do miracles. I hadn't seen this before. So back at that time, Professor Kasturi was alive, and he was one. So he did the Abhishekam with Swami. And Swami, the Abhishekam, Kasturi held up the urn, and Swami put his hand inside the urn, and he started going like this, and Vibhuti started coming out. And I thought, okay, Vibhuti's coming out of this urn. And then he would take his hand away, and the Vibhuti would stop. And he put his hand up again and did more of this, and more Vibhuti would come out. And as he kept doing this, more and more, there was a mountain of Vibhuti on the stage, more than could possibly fit inside the urn. And each time Kasturi stopped, it stopped, and they put up, came again. So that was like interesting. And Swami also went like this, and he manifested a necklace for Shirdi Sai, the statue that was nearby. So we were observing all this, thinking, this looks really real, right? And it was, I would say to you, at that point, I was really starting to understand this love, this deep love, because it was all still so new to me. And then basically the singing in the hall, Swami sat down again, and the singing in the hall, people were singing and singing through the night. And we sat there wondering what was going to happen. We had heard he's going to produce a lingam. I didn't know what a lingam was, but we were sitting there waiting for something to happen. And I just remembered to this day the strong energy that was in the room, because people were singing at the top of their lungs. They were full of love. They knew this was going to come. And the lingam, as the night went on, and the intensity rose and rose and rose and rose, until finally we saw Swami sitting there looking like he was going to bring something up, and then out popped the lingam. And afterwards, big smile on his face, and he took the lingam and held it. And he walked down the steps from the stage, and he walked right along the aisle where we were sitting. He was so happy to show us this lingam. Now, since then, I have realized the significance of this lingam, which ties very much into the mother, actually, because the lingam has two centers. A lingam is egg-shaped, oval, so it has two centers. It represents duality, but unity is a circle, and it's one center, right? So that one person, that one force, is manifesting duality, which is the creation of the earth. And we would not know anything in life unless we knew its opposite. We know only day without night, good without bad, hot without cold. We have to know the opposite to know what it is. And the other one is pain without pleasure. We have to have pain to know pleasure. And so if we just had pleasure all the time, we wouldn't know what it was. So I realized that this is the lingam was he was producing creation, the creation of us, the world, of everything in it. Swami always has said the reason he manifested the world was because he wanted to separate himself from himself so he could know himself. So because he did that, he created this duality. And now we spend our lives trying to get back to unity, that from which we came, from that white light like the rainbow. We're all like colors of the rainbow. And we're trying to get back to understand unity, to get back to him. So this was like, amazing experience at Puttaparthi, our first trip, to get there on Shivaratri and to experience all these things happening. I heard so many stories. People kept telling me stories of the miracles that Swami had done. And I thought, wow, this is big. This is big. This is really big. So we were going to stay 1 week. We stayed for 3 weeks, and then we left because we were heading to the Himalayas to do some trekking. So that's the experiences that I had, of this journey we had from our world trip. That was really, now that I look back on it, I feel like the world trip was, Swami wanted us to have that world trip, because if I had just seen a picture of Sai Baba in the United States, I might never have really had this, I wouldn't have had this experience. But because he brought us to us through all of those religious celebrations we went to, the religious celebrations, because we experienced so many people from the world, and now he brought us to, and the hearing the people on the train. I mean, everything was driving me towards Puttaparthi, and that's the experience we had. And to this day, I don't know what my life would be like without having met Swami. So that was a little bit about my journey, and we all have a journey. And so I'm sure that when I talk about my journey, you all can understand you have a journey too. After we went home from our world trip, it turns out that, nobody had heard of Sai Baba. we thought, how could we have an avatar on the earth and nobody had heard about him before? And so we went ahead, we had 2 children, and we saved some money, and we decided to go back in 1981. So it had been 1975 when we had come back from our trip and had this experience, and 1981 as we went back. In 1981, it so happens that a lot more people were going to Puttaparthi now, a lot more crowds. There was a lottery system. Before, we could just walk out and get front row Darshan. It was so easy, but now a lot more had changed. So I'm sitting back 12 rows thinking there's not a chance. But I said, Swami, Just one time. I'm just asking for one time so I can really, really see you and understand you. But I can't understand him, of course, but experience him. So I basically, I was sitting 12 rows back, and all of a sudden people around me saying, Cathy, Cathy, look. And there was my husband standing up there with my son, Aaron, who was 18 months old at the time. And I'm sitting with my daughter, who's age 3. And he's calling to me like this, and they said, go, go. So I got up and went, and Swami had called us for an interview. I was amazed. So I didn't know what to expect. And we walked up, and he guided us into the private interroom. There were about 8 people in our group. And he said, just my husband and I and our 2 kids in the private interroom. And I thought, oh, I'm here alone with the God of the universe. I don't know what to make of this. And we were sitting on the floor, and it was really quiet. Swami wasn't saying anything. We weren't saying anything because we didn't know what was going to happen. But it so turns out that my son, who was 18 months old, like I said, he had just learned how to say Baba. And so he's sitting there, and all of a sudden he takes his finger and he points to the picture on the wall of Sai Baba. He says, Baba. And over another wall, Baba. There's another picture, another wall, Baba. And he's pointing Baba around the room to these pictures. And so Swami looks at us, smiles, and he says, yes, Baba is everywhere. And that was like teaching. Every word that Swami says is a Veda. Everything he does has a reason for it. So that was like such a precious teaching in such a small moment of time, right? I came back from this trip. I raised my kids with the human values. The human values, Swami has said the world will know him first through the human values. The human values are so precious. They are so precious. I think what I would like to say is that everything I do has human values in it. Everything. I teach piano lessons, and I'm teaching human values because, if I can get the children to play with love from their heart, which we call playing above the notes. They don't even think of the notes they're playing. They're feeling it from their heart, and they're expressing this music. That's like values. In the kitchen, I'm cooking, and I'm saying, okay, I'm cutting away ego. I'm making love a verb and bringing it into my life. I founded an organization that today is all about human values, and people are loving it with even not knowing much about Sai Baba. Human values is our life, and I think that the thing that is so precious about the human values is the order that they're said. Sometimes I hear it being given in a different order, but if you have truth, right action, peace, love, and nonviolence, what is truth? Truth is an infallible truth. It's that which is changeless. It's true for all time, in the past, the present, and the future. It's always true. So you have to think about, what is that truth? Well, the truth would be that who we really are. We are divine beings. And that also follows through with hormones in the body. We have a hormone called oxytocin. That is the hormone of love, and it's got receptors all through the body. It's involved in every major system. We are divine beings of love. There's how do we know we're divine beings of love? I wanted to read you also something that Swami said. It was in a discourse in October of 1999. And in this discourse, Swami said, actually, how do we know we're divine? Okay. He said that at 4 months and 9 days of age of a baby in the mother's womb, that is when the Jiva Atma enters the human body. He said, till the child in the womb is 4 months and 9 days, the fetus is just a round ball of jelly. Then a force of vibration enters the embryo. Where from does this vibration come from? These are all his quotes, his Swami's words. Okay, that is the Brahman principle, the life principle. From that moment, the child in the womb starts moving. 4 months and 9 days gestation. Simultaneously, the Brahman principle enters the fetus. The combination of the two in the body is one of the secret doctrines of Vedanta. This process is treated as a human phenomenon, but it is not something human. It is a divine manifestation of Brahman. So from Swami saying that, we can know that we are divine beings. So if we are divine beings, then if we don't behave like divine beings, we're not being who we are. And this comes into Dharma. You could say that an apple tree has to produce apples. A banana tree produces bananas. It can't produce apples, and the apple tree can't produce bananas. So it's the inner part of who we really are. And our Dharma is that of love. We know this because if we have the characteristics of anger, animal instincts, animal tendencies of anger, attachment, desire, pride, jealousy, all these things. It's like the sun is pouring these human values on us because we're born with these human values in our heart, okay? But these animal tendencies cover that cover the and prevent those values from being expressed. If you look at people in your life who you feel attracted to, they are probably people who have allowed those human values to be expressed from your heart. So the human values are already in us. That's our Dharma, and that's what we have to remember. So if we are going to be loving beings, we have to behave like loving beings. We have to say things to ourselves, that are loving, like I am God. I'm not different from God. I'm the indivisible, supreme, absolute. I am Satchit Ananda. That's all there is Satchit Ananda. If you want to know who we really are, the God without form, Satchit Ananda, being, awareness, bliss. And then he has two really important lines. He says, fear and grief cannot affect me. Greed and anxiety cannot affect me. Fear cannot enter me. So that's really important, because we let fear enter us, we can't feel love. You can't have love and fear at the same time. So we have that happening. And then grief and anxiety. How much do we have fear and anxiety in life? But that's our attachment to the world. So it's, again, these are the teachings from Swami that are so powerful. The human values are really everything. Once you have truth and right action in synchrony with each other, you have integrity. Okay, when what you say is what you do, then you can't have conflict in your body. How many times do we say one thing and we do something different? So when they are in synchrony with each other, it's like unity in thought, word, and deed. What we say is what we do. These are important. This is the cornerstone of our spiritual journey, I think. And so if you have truth and right action in synchrony with each other, peace follows. We have peace because there's no conflict. And when you have peace, that's another little story I want to tell you. So I went to Puttaparthi one time, and all I wanted was peace. I was so involved in this organization I founded. I was so involved in piano. I was doing physical therapy. I'm a pediatric physical therapist, and raising two kids at home. It was just overwhelming. And I said to Swami, I need peace. Tell me how to have peace. So it was on that trip that I went, and the whole time I was there for 2 weeks, no answer. And I thought, am I leaving without having an answer to needing peace? And so we left the ashram. We went down to there was only the old airport in Bangalore. And we're there, we're on a plane, and we're sitting in the middle section, which has a lot of people in the rows. And I'm sitting there, and this guy in front of me suddenly turns around and says, you, I know you. You were at Puttaparthi. I said, yeah, I was at Puttaparthi. He says, we had interview. And it turns out they were from Mexico, and the Mexican group got their first interview. And so I said, of course, well, what happened in your interview? We always like to hear what happens in interviews, right? And he says, Swami told us, he said that one of the questions came up was, I need peace. I want peace. And so now tell me, what does Swami say? And so he said, I want peace is 3 words. Take away the I, that's ego. Take away the want, that's desire. And what do you have left? Peace. And he says, if you don't have peace, your life is in pieces. And that's exactly what it was. So reducing our ego, reducing our desire, and we can have that peace that we cherish so much. And when you have the peace, it's like you can't learn from it in a book. The peace that comes to you it just starts to happen. Because your truth and right action are in synchrony with each other, there's no conflict, the peace will start to flow. And when you have the peace, the love also comes. It just flows like a spring from the earth. And you can never you can never affect the depth of love. It's just going to keep coming and coming and coming. There's so much love. And then when you have love, how can you have violence? So you have nonviolence. Nonviolence is partly also speaking positive, saying positive words. So you can see how this is all coming together, having such an effect on my life, like things that I'm learning in different ways, different places. And so when you have all those 5 values in working for you in your life and you're practicing them, and that's the thing, practice, practice, practice. Swami says there's 5 kinds of knowledge. What are they? General, book, specific, discrimination, and practical. Which one's the most important? Practical, because if you don't have practical knowledge, then you don't have anything. So those were so, that knowledge was so powerful that, that you have to practice these human values. When you have them, it improves your character. And Swami says character is everything. Character is what leads you through life, helping people, coming from your heart, having equanimity, these kinds of things. So when you're going through life with these human values in practice with each other, then you're going to have more confidence, because when all of the practice of the 5 values leads to the character and leads to self-confidence, which is like you can see the foundation of the building. You can't see the foundation of the building often, but it's what holds up everything. So this confidence, there's nothing we can do without confidence. So when you have confidence, you have self-satisfaction, then on the walls, and then you have the roof of self-sacrifice. And this has to do with really doing things for other people without expecting a reward in return. When you do that, then you are able to have the experience of bliss. And I think that's where we feel at home. We are love itself. And when we experience that love and that bliss, that is what, really matters. So that's, the human values are so important. And I think another thing about understanding the human values is understanding how they connect with our environment and our values. So there's a question here, I think, has to do with how do these manifest in my life, the learnings and teachings of Swami. So one of the huge learnings that helped me make this practical knowledge work is that if I know that looking at water brings that peace, the value of peace is inherent in water. When we see water, we can feel peace, just like that. People put little fountains around their houses to feel at peace. We use water to our advantage like that. So water is full of peace. So when we have that experience, now every time we see water, we can feel peace. Okay. What about the earth? If I take a walk through the woods, I know that the earth gives us everything we are. That to eat, everything we need to eat. It gives us it gives us ourselves, because we are a product of the food that our mother eats when we're being born. So the earth is full of the human values of right action, because that's the action that the earth is giving to take care of us. So therefore, we need to take care of the earth. It's a simultaneous thing. Then inherent in fire, like if you light a candle, or if you think of the digestive fires in your body, the fire, what is that? It's truth. So what does truth do? It burns away impurities. So let that burn away the animal qualities of anger, desire, attachment, ego, jealousy, and all that. Okay, and then then you can know also that as you go from earth to water to fire, they each start to move faster. The earth moves very slowly, the water moves a little faster, the fire moves even faster, and as you do that, there are fewer values that you can associate with that particular thing. But then you get to air. And I love this one because air is all around us. We breathe it in, and inherent in air is love. So every time we take a breath in, we can feel love. Breathe in and out. You can breathe in love and know that is there for you to remember love. It's having constant integrated awareness, CIA. When you have that constant integrated awareness and you make love a part of your life, that is raising your consciousness to a higher level. That I am so grateful to Swami for that understanding. And then the after air, which moves even more freely than earth, water, and fire, you have a space or ether. and space ether is everywhere, and it stands for nonviolence. So this grid of understanding how these connections are made in the world that we live in, how our mind's working with the body, with the elements and everything, it becomes a part of who you are after you understand it and look at it. If you really find yourself getting angry or upset, what do? You'll take a drink of water and think peace, and there it is. Mm-hmm. So that's the practical application of a lot of this. I had another interview in 85, I think it was, or in 1989, I think. And in this interview, I can share an interaction I had with Swami. So we're sitting there again in the private interview room, and Swami said, he was talking about some things, but then he said something to me that I didn't understand. And he said it in English, and I still couldn't understand it. Because when you listen to Swami talk, it's like a cosmic voice. He's not of this world. You can tell he's not of this world. And he basically said something, your something is not good. And I couldn't make out the word because I wasn't prepared for this. I said, what did you say, Swami? And he said again, I couldn't understand the words, something is not good. I said, Swami, what are you saying? What do you mean? And then he said to me, your right retina. He said so slowly like it is not good. I thought, what? Because I didn't think I was having any trouble with my eyes. And so it took me completely off guard. And he left it at that. He just said that. The interview finished in the private room, and we went back to the group room where there are just still about 5 or 6 other people there. And he came back out to me again, and he stood above me and said, right retina, not good. And I thought, well, he's the God of the universe. He made us. We would not be here without him. He knows how to fix this or heal it. But I got on my knees and said, Swami, could you fix it, please? At that moment, everybody laughed because I didn't say, will you heal it? Will you cure it? It was like, Swami, will you fix it? Because like, this is a machine, you can just fix it if he wants to, right? At the moment that I said that and everybody's laughing, he took his hand and he went me on the head like that. And it took me by surprise again. But I realized, again, nothing happens without a reason. And so we walked out of the interview room that day, and I realized that my right eye was feeling heavier down before the interview, and now it was back up where it needed to be. That was something I noticed. I never really worried about it before, but he knew there was something going on there, and he fixed it. So that was like, an interaction I had with Swami that was amazing. Another time, I was talking to Swami about, I was talking to other devotees. Everybody's talking about Swami coming to them in their dreams. And I thought, I get some dreams of Swami, but not like everybody else. And I thought I wanted him to come to me more in my dreams. So we're in the interview room, and I kneeled up because he was right there beside me. I said, Swami, will you please come to me more in my dreams? And he looked down at me and put his hand like this. He says, what? This is dream. This is dream. Another life lesson. We live in a dream world. We're just ordinary bodies, and we're living in a dream world. The dream that we live in, I've learned since then, is you can picture it like, I love to picture it as a movie. We are the movie. This is a movie right now that's happening. And it's a movie because it's temporary. We come and we go. We're born and we die. The journey that we have in life is our play. And Swami is orchestrating all of this. So in the dream, when you're watching a movie, there's a screen and there's the movie. So you only see the movie because it's on the screen. If there was no screen, you wouldn't see the movie. So in the same way, the movie that we're playing here is on the screen of the Atma. If you take away the screen or the Atma, there's no movie, and vice versa. So, if we can remember that all that we are doing here is really just in the dream world, and we are ordinary people who have come with a message in this dream world to realize who we really are. Because again, Swami separated himself from himself so he could know himself. So we also have to be a witness to this play that we are on the movie. And if we're witnessing that, it doesn't become so important anymore. We do our duty. We're part of the movie. We help other people. We do our seva. We try to remember God. It's all part of where Swami has come to raise our consciousness, trying to do those kinds of things. And so the dream world is what it is. And eventually we will go back to the unity, back from where we came. So that was like the dream, I think, has been something really important. There's another experience I had that I can share with you. I don't share this with many people, but I'll share it with you because I think it really is important to know that we had some interviews, but the interviews are even more profound. So when you have an interview, the Swami comes to you not in a dream, but in his real form. That matters. I was at a retreat once in our Sai Baba region, here in Region 2, and we had finished singing bhajans in the Great Hall. And we were walking out of the hall on our way down the path to the canteen where we're going to be eating our meal. I remember the grass was very green. The cars were parked on this side. The place where we were going to eat was a red building, kind of long. And there were about 200 people walking down from the bhajan hall to the cafeteria. As somebody came up to me, a friend of mine, and she said, Cathy, I just came back from Puttaparthi. Listen to this. And it was Baba's verses on a tape. And she put the headphones on my ears. And she was on one side of me, another lady was on the other side. And I had these headphones. I'm listening to this verses. All of a sudden, I was out of my body. I was a ball of light. I was an orange, all the colors of the sun, the oranges, the yellows, the whites. It was like a powerful, completely aware of everything that I ever needed to know. I was there in that light. And I was enough to know, I looked out, there was the grass, it was green, the house was red. But the people walking down to the cafeteria, all I could see were their atmas, their shapes. There were no form. There was no form on them at all. It was just their soul. I was looking at 200 souls walking towards the cafeteria. And I thought, and the thought that came into my mind was, this is all small stuff. Don't take life so seriously. It's things that happen in life are passing clouds. They come and they go, just like we come and we go. You know, that's the experience that I had there was just that, try to remember that this is all small stuff. So it was an experience I had of cosmic consciousness that, I don't know how long I was there, but all of a sudden I was back in my body and walking down towards the cafeteria to have something to eat. So it was an experience that, was very amazing. And I could say to you that being the ball of light was consciousness itself. It was without the body. It was expansion. It was what I've been yearning for, probably for many lifetimes. I wanted to know more than myself. And this feeling of expansion was just amazing to feel that. So I think I seek in life things that are broader, like there's only one religion. It's the religion of love. There's only one language, the language of the heart. This is broad thinking. This is global thinking. This is spiritual thinking. So today, if people ask me, what religion are you? I have to say I'm a spiritualist. That's the only thing I can come up with, because I believe in all religions. I believe they all have messages and they're all to be respected and loved. And we need to get along in this world better by, accepting each other for who we are. So it was 1981, I believe, when I was in Puttaparthi, and there was the first, they called it the Balvikas conference. And I had not registered for it. I didn't know about it ahead of time, but they said, come, you've got to come. And so at that point, I knew enough to know that everything that happened to me is something that was meant to be, or it was important for me. So I went to the conference thinking, maybe I'm going to be teaching Balvikas. And so I ended up coming back to the United States. And of course, my children were small at that time. I knew about these human values. I wanted them to have this experience of living these human values and learning about them, because it would impact their lives greatly, like it had mine. So it turns out that at the retreat, our Sai Baba retreats was one of the very first ones, there was no children's program at all. And I thought, I have to do something about that. So I organized a program for the kids, and we did this amazing thing that people still talk to me about to this day. We had a cement pole, and from the cement pole that was grounded with a base, we took like, what do you call, little ribbons coming out from them. And we had all the children dressed in a costume of different religions. And we taught them a dance to do around the pole, and what happens is first they're all spread out, and then they end up getting intertwined until at the end, when all the ribbons are together on the pole, it's like we are one. And it was the message that came across from that is still remembered to this day. And so it started me thinking, we were starting to understand that the children needed ongoing work with SSE. So they asked me to be the regional coordinator for Region 1 and 2 together back then. So I had to figure out what I do for that role, because there was no precedent for it. And I just started thinking, okay, Swami's human values have to be taught, or not taught, because you can't learn them. You just have to explain what they are. Educare was a big thing then, that educare that you draw out from within. So how to do that. And then also the world religions, I wanted people to understand that, all the religions are valid. There's only one religion. It's the religion of love. So with that behind me, I launched a program that I started teaching SSE, and then I was asked to be the coordinator for the region and actually teach this to other places. So I did a lot of workshops throughout the region, Region 1 and 2. And the workshops I did, like there would be one only on the 5 parts of every SSE lesson plan, which would be, an activity, a song, a discussion, a story, pre and post, and life application, and prayers, all those elements of every lesson plan. And we took one, I would do like prayer, and we would have a whole workshop for 2 days just on prayer. Everybody who came would bring examples of prayers, and we would share them with each other and talk about them and what they meant. We do the same thing for songs. We sang songs. And we did the same thing for like activities, and people brought in activities that they did. So this is like how it all started. And I found the interaction with other Sai devotees to be remarkably fascinating. Here I am with a group of people. Remember, at first I didn't know anybody who knew Sai Baba. So now I'm with a group of people that really knows about Sai Baba by this time, and they want to live his teachings. They want to practice his teachings. So I wanted to bring that into the SSE trainings. So I actually started the SSE trainings in our regions, and then there came this certificate that you could train to be an SSE teacher. And I found myself involved immensely in that. Let me say, behind all of this is that I love working with children. I'm a pediatric physical therapist, so I was with children there. I teach piano lessons. I'm working with children there. I'm with SSE. I'm working with children there. I work with birthing moms and, who are going to give birth to babies. So my life has been with children. I'm fascinated by their minds and how quickly they can learn and how open they are to learning. So the SSC started to become more involved. And then as the coordinator, I also used to write plays for the retreat. It's like 5 or 6 years. And we would have regional get-togethers. So people came from Richmond, Virginia, New York State. They made big efforts, and we produced these plays at the retreats, and they were fabulous. And then they said, let's take a trip to Puttaparthi and take a play to Puttaparthi. So we had 2 plays that we took to Puttaparthi. We never got to perform them there, but we were told to take them and bring them, and we actually did perform them for some people there. So it was like, I found that when the kids were able to say Swami's teachings in the context of the play or in the context of the song, that they learned it better. There's one song that comes to my mind that I wrote that I'll share with you. And it's the one that goes, it's for the 3 H's, head, heart, and hands, right? Because that's to this day, whenever I'm doing anything, I have to remember to consult my heart first before I do the action. So when I do that, I know that I'm doing the right thing at the right time, because I know it's the consciousness that's guiding me. So the song we do is head, shoulders. Oh, sorry, it's not. Swami's 3 H's, head, heart, and hands, are the way to understand. Take thoughts from your head, put them into your heart. Take thoughts from your heart, put them into your hands. That is right action, giving satisfaction. And that's a little song that I wrote that kids still sing to this day. So the 3 H's are very, very important. Another way to reach both sides of the brain with a song and a message. And so we keep looking for more songs that do that kind of thing, because kids learn. Right? They learn that way. So being an SSE coordinator, teaching SSE classes, I could say the other thing that happens, and this is for anybody out listening to this talk who is an SSE teacher. When you are an SSE teacher, Swami is with you, and he is guiding you. And you might have organized something for a lesson plan, and in the middle of it all, something comes to you that you have to do. That's Swami guiding you and training you, right? So, yeah, I've had that happen over and over again. And it's just such a reassuring feeling that what you're teaching is actually, Swami is listening and he is hearing you. What Sai Baba means to me can be reflected in an experience that I had at Puttaparthi. It was one morning, blue sky, sun, hot. The Sai Culmut was not built yet. And we were just sitting on the sands, regular for Darshan. Swami comes out usually and he goes to the women's side on the veranda. Then he goes down to the men's side and he takes his hand, waves like this to us. He comes back to the women's side, goes back to the men's side, and he usually goes inside the mandir. And we sit out in the sun listening to the mandir songs, the bhajans. But on this particular morning, it so happens that he did something different. And we didn't know what to make of it. He moved to the women's side and he went like this with his hands. He went to the men's side, did this with his hands, and back to the women's side. He did it again. Then back to the men's side and to the women's side. The whole time that the bhajans were going on in the mandir, he was just doing this to all of us. And it was not until the very end, almost the last bhajan, that he actually went inside the mandir. But what happened during that time was such a lifelong experience that we had, because somehow we started feeling these emotions rising within us, and we just started crying tears of joy, sobbing. It wasn't just crying like tears trickling down your cheeks. We were sobbing. And, we realized that as he came back and forth, side to side, and with his hand like this, which means why fear when I'm here, he was actually pouring love on us. And this love that he poured on us was so powerful that our only way of responding and reacting was to cry tears of joy. So it was an amazing experience to have this happen. And later we talked to people on the men's side, and they also were having the same experience. So this is like, Swami is pure love. And when you have this kind of experience, you get to feel that power of love. And you realize that that is what's inside of you, and it's like bringing you home to yourself. And there's something that can be no more joyous than that to have happen. So this leads me to a lot. What I've learned about Swami is the power of love. I didn't know much about love until I met Swami. I knew simple kinds of love. You love your parents, you love your house, you love your pets, but the divine love that he expresses in his pure love is what I had learned a lot about. So this leads us to the question, who is Sai Baba? People will come and they'll ask me, who is Sai Baba? You follow Sai Baba. Who is Sai Baba? So I would say, well, Sai Baba is pure love. Like, it's having experiences like this at the Darshan is where I realized that. Who is Sai Baba? So I say Sai Baba is pure love. And then we ask ourselves, well, what is love? Because that's the deeper meaning that we're looking for. And it is divine love, and it's the divine love that's within all of us, and it also is the governing power of the universe. It's what holds the planets in place around the sun. It's what moves the galaxies. It's what makes the earth work. It's what makes us work as part of that earth. So this divine love is who he is. And then, who is God, we would say. And I heard somebody say something that fascinates me. He said that the form of God is the emptiness that surrounds space. So we can't see this. It's something we have to believe in because we can't see it. And this emptiness that forms space around space, it's like every word that we say has space between the words. Space is everywhere around us. And so the only thing that we can experience the earth with is through our five senses of seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. So that's the only way we can relate to the earth around us and the experience of being here on the earth. But God is beyond that. So there's the mind. Our mind does not have the capacity to understand something more than those five senses. So we have to have trust and faith. And when you experience this divine love, like I'm telling you, we did at the Darshan, it gives us the idea that we are much more powerful than we think we are, and that love is a much more powerful thing than we anticipated it to be. So that's the mystery behind Sai Baba. We can't know him and understand him. We can only experience him, and we can learn from that experience. Hopefully that's what rises us to a new level of consciousness.